Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Friday, January the 29th, 2021, and I want to be updating you on COVID 19. Before I updating you on COVID 19, I want to be going and talking about Alberta because today, obviously, our premier decided that they will open gyms and all these openings that are going to be opening soon. And that's some stuff that already our premier announced today that will happen. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney said the province will begin easing restrictions on February 8th as part of a new path forward for easing COVID-19 health restrictions with clear benchmarks for hospitalization. A detailed plan for gradually reopening businesses in the province was outlined by the Premier, in which decreasing hospitalization numbers will trigger new levels of restrictions being lifted. This is the first business to benefit our restaurants and gyms. It's important that we show Albertans that there is a path forward, Kenny said at a news conference Friday. But this must be done carefully, slowly, and in a way that's driven not by opinions but by data. Hospitalization will be the key metric for easing restrictions further, he said, supplemented by daily numbers and case growth. We choose hospitalizations because it's a clear and director of healthcare capacity, Kenny said, is also a lagging in director, which means it gives us a better idea of how relaxations affect the healthcare system. Daily case numbers and case growth are leading metrics that better reflect recent transmission trends, he said. Those statistics will be used to guide decisions around the need to pause further relaxations or potentially to increase restrictions if the virus once again poses a growing threat. If cases of COVID-19 surge again, restrictions will reimpose, he said. If we start moving once again towards exponential growth like we saw in November and December, and if somehow one of these new vi- variants take hold in our community and begins to spread at rates seen in some other parts of the world, we will have to impose stronger restrictions again. Under the plan, when hospitalization decreases below 600, the province will consider easing restrictions on school-related indoor and outdoor children's sports and performance activities. Indoor personal fitness places, one-on-one and by appointment only, and on restaurants, cafes, and pubs. Currently, there are 594 people in hospital with COVID-19, with 110 of them in intensive care. That number was about is allowing September 1st of reopening to begin on February 8th. Now these activities will still be bound by clear limitations, Kenny said. For example, there will be a physical distancing requirements, activity restrictions, group size limitation, and mass gathering other mandatory measures. When hospitalization fall below 450, restrictions will be eased on retail businesses, communities, halls, and hotel banquet halls and conference centers. Below 300, and restrictions are in place for worship, adult team sports, public attractions, theaters, casinos, and libraries will be eased. All other activities will have to wait until hospitalization drop below 150. The last week of January had been frustrating one for Albertans who are growing impatient with COVID-19 and the ongoing health restrictions. On Monday, Health Minister Tyler Shandro announced a variant of COVID-19 virus known for its ease of transmission appeared to have already entered the border population, with one of the 20 unknown cases in the province found an individual who had no link to international travel. Health officials are worried about B117 variant first identified in the United Kingdom and may lead to a new surgery of COVID-19 cases. Two more cases of B117 variant had been identified, both related to original cases, Dr. Dina Hinshaw said Friday. On Thursday, the province learned it will be getting far fewer doses of vaccine than expected due to the national shortage. Canada's main supplier of vaccine, Pfizer, is upgrading its Belgian plant to increase the manufacturing capacity. The shortage left the province unable to give a first dose to even one person this week. The date of 10,123 Albertans have been vaccinated, with about 12,000 of them having received the required second dose. On a positive note, the number of cases in the province continues its downward trend. Alberta reported 841 active cases Thursday, with 591 people in hospital, 112 of them in intensive care. Seven new deaths brought the total to 1,606. Dr. Dina Hinshaw, Alberta Chief Medical Officer of Health, will provide the final update of the week starting at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Alberta government is trying to lift some restrictions, including allowing restaurants to reopen, in-person dining and gym to reopen with limited capacity. Industry and government officials confirmed to CBC News that these amendments to the current COVID-19 health measures are expected to be announced Friday afternoon by Premier Jason Kenney. CBC News has agreed not to name the officials as they were not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. Those businesses won't be permitted to reopen until at least next week, and with strict capacity and other types of health limits. However, the advance note provides to industries is meant to allow time to plan a safe reopening, the source said. These changes are expected to be part of a large announcement on COVID-19 made by the Premier Friday. The province chief medical officer of health, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, will also be at the press conference with the Premier. Alberta's 7-day average for a few COVID-19 cases currently sits at 480, down from 1,794 at beginning of December. The total of active cases in Alberta had been dropping slowly and steadily since it peaked at 21,138 on December 13th. That was a day after Kenny's UCP government introduced tighter restrictions that made working from home mandatory for those who could ban in-person service at restaurants, pubs, and bars, and entirely close entertainment and recreation faculties for movie theaters to gyms, personal and wellness service like spas and hair salons. A few days earlier, the province had also instituted a mandatory province-wide mask requirement and banned all indoor and outdoor social gathering with people beyond one's immediate household. With case numbers falling, Alberta eased some public health restrictions on January 18th, allowing hair salons, barbershops, and other personal service businesses to reopen by appointment, only up to 10 people to gather outdoor and up to 20 people to attend funerals, provided to all who attended wear masks and maintain 2 meters of physical distancing. Before Friday, Hinshaw had repeatedly said that with so many people still in hospital, it wasn't yet to further ease up on the restrictions. On Thursday, province updated Alberta has lost 1,606 people to the disease since the pandemic began last March. 7 new deaths were reported on Thursday. There were 591 people in hospital, which is dropped to what it was early December before peaking at more than 900 people as on Thursday. 112 were in intensive care. As the case numbers shrink, concerns grow about new and more highly contagious variant of COVID-19 in Alberta. On Monday, Alberta reported 20 cases of more easily transmitted coronavirus variant from the United Kingdom and 5 of the variant from South Africa. One of the UK cases had could not be linked to travel, prompting concerns it was circulating among the border community. The variant are estimated to have an infection rate at 30 to 50% higher than the strain that has been in Alberta so far. So now we're going to be moving on talking about so a lot of news that are going on today, and it's very crazy when you see those kind of things going on. Airlines suspending certain flights, Ottawa introducing quarantine hotel stay to discourage travel. Measures come as concerns about new variant of coronavirus mount. Canada main airlines have agreed to cancel service to the Caribbean and Mexico, and the federal government is introducing new mandatory quarantine rules as it tries to discourage international travel. This morning, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced Air Canada, WestJet, Sunwing, and Air Transit have agreed to suspend service to some sun destinations starting this Sunday until April 30th and will be making arrangements with their customers who are in these regions now to be organized flights home. With the challenges we currently face with COVID-19, both here at home and boards, we all agree that now is just not the time to be flying, said Trudeau outside at home at Trudeau Hall College. Starting at 11:59 p.m. Eastern on February 3rd, all international passenger, private, and charter flights, including from the U.S., will land at Vancouver, Toronto, Calgary, and Montreal airports. Cargo-only flights will remain exempt. The Prime Minister said the government will soon introduce mandatory PCR testing at the airport for only people returning to Canada as soon as possible in the coming weeks. That's on top of the pre-boarding test already required. Travelers will then have to wait up to 3 days at a government-approved hotel for their test results at their own expense, with Trudeau said expected to be more than 2,000. Transport Canada said there will be very limited exemptions. Those a negative test will then be able to finish their 14 quarantine at home with increase. Chief Public Officer of Health Doctor Theresa Tam added that the routines will also be swapped on 10-day. She also said travelers who have been vaccinated aboard will still be subject to the quarantine rules, but added that's under discussion. We know that's just one case of variant that comes in, in could cause significant challenges, and that's why we need to take extra measures, Trudeau said. Yes, it's extremely low, the percentage of cases that trace back to international travel, but it's not zero. He said that is coming weeks. Canada will begin requiring non-essential travelers to show a negative test before entry to the land board with the US. The government asked and we agree. While we know that the air travel is responsible for less than 2% of cases since the start of the crisis, and even less today, we recognize the government of Canada as its precautionary measures. Air Canada issued a statement saying the decision won't have much impact on their cash burn given already reduced levels of travel. Air Canada believes a collaborative approach with the Government of Canada involving all air carriers in the best means to respond to COVID-19 pandemic, especially given concerns around the variant of COVID-19 and travel during the spring break period. This is and said many companies. When asked why other vaccine destinations, including Florida, aren't part of the suspensions, Transport Minister Omar Alghabra said the government looked at the most popular locations. There is a voluntary agreement and understanding with the airlines that this is the best to suspend their airlines. Now, for people who are traveling to the US, they will be subject to the same requirements that we subject all travels, he said. We're doing we're calling all Canadians to cancel their flights, not just to the Caribbean, not just to Mexico, to all destinations. The Prime Minister has been clear for a while. I'm repeating it right now. We're calling all Canadians to please cancel your vacations. Friday move follow weeks of mounting political pressure on the federal government to tighten upward travel. Canada moves Canada moves is not without precedents. Australia had been required more travels to quarantine at a government arrangement hotel for 14 days. The UK introduced similar measures on Thursday and now requires citizens arriving from dozens of high-risk countries to quarantine in hotels for 10 days at expensive. Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole said his party was the first to ask to secure the board at the start of the pandemic and the Liberals were slow to act. Lockdown and restrictions were put in place to buy governments time to get permanent solutions like vaccination, rapid testing, variant testing capacity. These tools now exist, he said in a statement. The problem is Justin Trudeau hasn't succeeded in bringing them in widespread use in Canada. We need to be using these tools to reduce quarantine times, like our allies around the world are doing. Canada has had a ban on non essential travel into the country by anyone who isn't a citizen or permanent resident since March. But banning the flow of Canadians in and out of the country is a thorough task. People who return from abroad for non essential reason must quarantine for 2 weeks or risk financially penalties of jail time, a measure that's also been in place since March. As early this month, most travelers must also show proof of negative COVID-19 test before arriving in Canada. So that's what's happening in Canada, and that's what going aboard and easing the COVID-19 restrictions. That all will take time. Um, Moderna is to cut deliveries to Canada in new blow to vaccination campaign. U.S. drug maker is expected to ship between 20-25% less product to Canada in February. Canada vaccination campaign is facing yet another hurdle in the race to insulate people against the deadly novel coronavirus with the announcement today that Moderna will delay some shipments of its product next month. Moderna is expected to ship between 20-25% less product to Canada in February than originally planned, but much like the delay that France and Italy also reported today after the conversation with the drug maker, next week shipments have been revised down to 180,000 doses. The delay means tens of thousands of doses will be pumped to later date as COVID-19 related deaths in Canada near 20,000 mark. We also we will always share the most accurate information we have, but the short term those numbers can fluid. But as global production continue to pick up, there will be more stability in the system, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told reporters Friday. Trudeau said the Moderna distribution are tied to certain concerns around the manufacturing process. This temporary delay doesn't change the fact that we will still receive 2 million doses of the Moderna vaccine before the end of March. As we've been saying for months, he said, we know that that is something that we're going to have to keep watching very, very closely. This is the second time in less than a month that Canada had to conduct with the delivery delays from the pharmaceutical company. Pfizer is shipping roughly 80% fewer shots than its initially promised over the next 4 weeks, as it grapples with the fallout from the upgrades to manufacturing plants. Despite Trudeau's assurance, the delay means that Canada will struggle to meet its target of the next 6 million Pfizer BioNTech and Moderna shots delivery by the end of March, a rosy forecast that was already in a doubt because of the Pfizer supply issues. To meet that target, more than 3.5 million doses of two products will have to be delivered in the month of March alone, or roughly 8,085,000 doses a week. Trudeau also said Friday he had another very positive and encouraging call with Dr. Albert and the CEO of Pfizer and to discuss Canada receiving more doses ahead of the scheduling starting in the spring break. We will have more detail to share on the next week, Trudeau said. The possibility of more Pfizer doses arriving in the second quarter of the year. He said Pfizer may be able to move up the delivery of some doses that were earmarked for later in the year. Production lines around the globe are adapting to high demands from every country, Trudeau said. The upgrades in the Belgian faculty will give the company the capacity to bump out up to 2 billion shots this year, up from the initial projections of 1.3 billion doses in 2021. The Moderna delay also comes the day the European Union released details about new expert-controlled temporary measure designed to trace vaccines leaving the 27-member bloc to ensure supply on the continent. The measures require companies to seek to ship out outside the Eurozone to obtain prior authorization. The rules will allow countries to block exports or impose conditions on companies if they aren't delivering a significant number of dosage to the EU members. Political leaders say they are concerned that companies are cutting supplies to intend for EU countries in order to sell doses to other nations at higher prices. We need temperancy on where the vaccines we secured are going, and to ensure that they reach our citizens, we are accountable towards the European citizens and taxpayers. That's a key principle for us, the EU Health and Food Safety Commissioner said in a statement. These regulations could prove disruptive to Canada's supply, as all of the Pfizer Biotech shots designated for this country are shipping from the company Belgium faculty, while the EU exempt production designated to some countries, including some neighboring non-EU states and the Middle Eastern countries, among others, Australia, Canada, and the UK, and other US were not on that list. However, International Trade Minister said the comments Friday that she doesn't expect the new exports controls to impact Canada shipments beyond the two products already approved. Health Canada regulatories are reviewing the clinical trial data, and another promising vaccine candidate from Johnson and Johnson Pharmaceutical Division. The EU Medicine Agency approved the Astra vaccine Friday, allowing the lead of other countries around the world that have given the green light to shot that was a co-development with the research at the University of Oxford. The shot has an effective rate between 70% and 90% depending on the manner in which that doses are given. Health Canada had been reviewing the project on rolling basis since October 1st, collecting and analyzing data as it becomes available rather than waiting for final submission. And the department is expected to make decisions about the project in the coming days, a spokesperson said in a statement. While the department collaborates with the other regulatories, it remains committed to conduct an independent and through scientific review of all COVID-19 vaccine, the spokesperson said. So this is all about the COVID-19 and the vaccine and how this will affect Canada in different ways. Um, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and MP mark fourth anniversary of the Quebec City mosque shooting. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says the party will introduce anti-racism legislation that targets white supremacists. The Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the members of the Parliament took a moment to mark the fourth anniversary of the Quebec City mosque shooting today and to call for action to fight against racism and discrimination that targets Canada's Muslim community. The duty to remember is duty of honor and respect. 4 years ago, six Canadians, united by the faith, fell victim and bullet of a killer. This was an act of terrorism inspired by the Islamophobia, Conservative MP Garland said in the House of Commons. Islamophobia and all phobias based on religious beliefs have no place and must be condemned without any conditions. These forms of violence have no place in Canada. Your memory will be preserved forever. We will not be forget ever. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who yesterday announced that January 29 will become an official day of remembrance for the victims of the attack and the time to call for action against Islamophobia, defends people's right to worship free from violence. Every year on this day, we will honor the victims and we will recommend ourselves to fighting the discrimination and hate that took them from us. Trudeau said Friday from outside Rudolph Hall College. No one should ever be afraid because on the way they pray, not in Canada and not anywhere around the world. On January 29, 2017, Yuroko and Xandro Bosset entered the Quebec Islamic Culture Center and opening fire just before 8 p.m., killing six and injuring five others. The attack lasted less than 2 minutes. In that time, 17 children lost their fathers, six wives lost their husbands, and many lives were changed forever. Bloc MP Helen Gurl told the House of Commons that every Quebecer must be able to practice their religion freely and live without fear. I would like to say to the Muslim community of Quebec City particularly, and also of all of the Quebec, that they have can count on us as allies to ensure that such violence never happen again. Our thoughts are with you now and in the future, he said in French. The NDP, Alexander Forster, described the attack as a sad episode in Canada history that should serve as a reminder to fight racism and discrimination in all its forms. As MPs, will all have an obligation to lead by example, so let's be more mindful and potential impact of our words, he told the House of Commons. This sad anniversary of the attack on the Quebec City Mosque reminds us that racism and hatred do not exist in this country, and sometimes it kills. Let's work together to ensure that these six people did not die in vain. After delivering statement, MPs in the House of Commons stood for a moment of silence to mark the fourth-year anniversary. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh also expressed his condolences to bereaved the survivors of the attack, but said more has to be done than just remember. We need to see all parties commit to real action to fight the root cause of this and not to be afraid of pointing out white supremacist and extreme right-wing groups that openly promote hate and violence. Singh said his party is drafting legislation that will target white supremacist organizations and other hate groups. He would not provide details of what measures would be in the legislation or when it would be coming. It's also essential to do something in memory of those lives lost to stop this form ever happening again, Singh said. So it is sad what happened, but um, today marks the anniversary of that, and hopefully everybody uh, remembers that, and hopefully everybody gives the condolences. And it is sad, really, what happened because this really wasn't a joke, and this was 2 years an attack that happened in the mosque, and it was really long time when we saw this happening. But it's very sad to see that people like that they go and attack, and like these leaders saying that there's no place that we have in Canada of tolerance and behavior in Canada, especially when it comes to hatred of the people. There's no place for that, and people need to be more respectful, and there's has to be uh, that kind of thing in Canada, not hatred, not hating with somebody just because of their color or because of their religion or going to destroying them. That's not acceptable in Canada, and it's not acceptable anywhere in the world also. So what Trudeau said, it really makes sense, and we need to see that happening, and also people need to change and get along and accept the fact whatever it is, but don't go and commit crime and commit those kind of things and hatred in Canada and make people feel that there's hatred and stuff, and there should not be that kind of thing in Canada, and there's no tolerance, and there's no that kind of thing. So that kind of stuff, it needs to be worked on. At the same time, it needs to change a lot of stuff and in a lot of every way, in every way, and hopefully that will change things. Hopefully that will make things get better, because Canada is a diverse country and we live in a diverse province, and we need to know that we shouldn't accept any kind of racism. This is not like the U.S. We shouldn't have no extreme rights here, and we should be more independent, and everything should go well. That's it. My name is Abdulrahman Yousuf. I'm the one who's doing this video. If you need to subscribe, you can continue to subscribing. If you like this video, you can continue to watch this video, and there will be new videos that are going to be coming in the next couple of days. I hope everybody have a great day, have a nice weekend, and I will see you on Monday.